right, good morning everybody, and welcome back to a special weekend edition of True Crime Loser. Well folks, hell of a week in comedy this past week, and I got a couple stories for you. The first one, there's a clip in the description that you just have to watch. I've probably watched it 40 times this past week, and let me set it up though. So, extremely famous, successful LA-based comedian Chris D'Elia about 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, had some serious sexual type allegations bubble up online. Fastest way to describe it is Austin Jones type. Not quite as bad as Austin Jones. Austin was like, hey, underage girl, would you mind twerking and taking a picture of it while zooming in on your butthole? D'Elia's seemed to be more, they use the word grooming, like he was touring around and messaging fans after shows, and maybe some of them were underage, and the stories are coming out with screenshots. Oh God, not the screenshots. But old D'Elia could be in huge trouble. But anyway, so it was bubbling up online enough where he felt like he needed to make a statement, and so he said something like, I've never intentionally pursued underage girls, and all my relationships have been consensual and legal. And then he said something like, but that being said, I absolutely got caught up in my lifestyle. I got to work on it. I'm sorry. Something, one of the like, I need to grow. It's time to grow type emails. So he put out that statement, and then a big paper in LA, I think the LA Times put out a big expose on the whole thing with 5 women's stories, like I said, complete with the screenshots. And I think out of those 5, 1 or 2 were underage, which I'm sure at this point he was extremely canceled this past week, which if it all comes out and it's true, you did it to yourself. But he came out, or he's already totally canceled career-wise. All of the LA people have already turned on him and chopped off his head, and he had the best agency and management. They both publicly dropped him, but I'm sure at this point he doesn't even care about all that. I'm sure he's just worrying about the underage ones and not going to jail for a while. So let's see. So he puts out that statement, and then the big LA paper puts out their big story on it, and then his people, Chris D'Elia's people, put out a statement. Either if there was 1 underage or 2 in the paper, maybe just 1. Anyway, one of the underage allegations from the big LA paper story, then his people, after that came out, put out an email that the girl that was doing the underage allegations had sent to Chris at some point saying like, hey Chris, I'm 21 now and down to fuck. And so it's, as you can imagine, a complete and utter dumpster fire of a week for Chris D'Elia, and you gotta wait with these, and it's very early on in the process. I'm interested to see how all these allegations, or if there's an investigation or what happens, but this all was this past week. And when anytime something like this happens to somebody, like these types of allegations where it's a comedian that does 10 million podcasts, people start scouring all the podcasts that they did, and a few of these just mesmerizing clips have come out of that. So the one that I have in the description, he's on a podcast 6 months ago called The Fighter and the Kid. And it's towards the end of the podcast. They must do current event stuff at the end because the podcast's wrapping up, and they go, all right, let's do some current events. And they got a producer that introduces a current event story and puts it up on the screen, and then the people on the podcast riff it out. And so the producer goes, oh, here's a story. The 30-something-year-old teacher is going to jail for 2 years for sending a nude picture to one of her underage students. And everyone's like, oh, damn. And if you're interested in like body language type video, it's just fascinating, because all of a sudden Chris D'Elia, he's got this confident, ball-busting personality known for like weird noises and a high-pitched laugh. And all of a sudden they get on this news story where a 35-year-old teacher is going to jail for 2 years. And you can just see his whole... And everyone else is talking about it like, damn, she's going to jail for 2 years. And you can hear the mic is hitting. You can hear Chris just mostly in his head, but you can hear him just kind of whisper things like 2 years. Damn. And he's just, just all of the confidence and cool and attempts to be funny in the podcast ran out of his face. And he's just kind of, and then he asked the producer, he goes, oh, how did it come out? How did the person how did she get caught? And the producer goes, the victim's mom, the underage boy, the victim's mom found the pictures that the teacher sent. And then he goes, well, how did she find the pictures? It's on Snapchat. Don't they disappear? And the producer goes, no, you can save them. You can screen grab. And hearing that, and like I said, with these type of sexual allegations, you have to just let them play out. To publicly chop someone in half before they get there, it just doesn't work for anyone. The victims, there was another rapist in the comedy world that they went full-on online lynch mob before the process, and he got off, and he sued some improv theater and got money from that. So you got to let the process play out, but this clip does not look good for old D'Elia. So he's sitting there just going, what? And when she goes, yeah, I mean, you can easily save Snapchats. You just record. He almost looks like Stephanie Lazarus. His face he goes through, I'm pretty sure he goes through all of the stages of grief for himself and his career right there on the podcast in HD. You can tell he's thinking about jail time in 2 years, and that you can save those pictures, and he might even invent a few stages of grief just in the moment, just improv them. And he also starts grabbing he almost rips the meat off his forearm. He's just sitting there like, oh God, 2 years. And then they're talking about how the teacher's relationship with their student, the inappropriate, and like I said, he's always so just like confident and ball buster. And I laughed. He's like talking about that relationship. And he goes, yes, that's very unorthodox. That's how he described it. Yeah, oh, that relationship is very unorthodox. You don't really hear that word very much describing a relationship from a comedian that is known for a high-pitched laugh. Just, yes, unorthodox. And so check out that clip. I'll post 2 of them. One of them is someone edited the Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's like 30 seconds, so just that moment where he goes, how did you find out? Don't Snapchats leave? And the producer going, no, you can easily save them. And then and then it zooms in. It's like, bam, 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 da, 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 da. And Bryan Callen, one of the hosts of the podcast, it's probably the most perfect thing he's ever said in the perfect timing. Right after they tell Chris, oh yeah, it's easy to save, and he's going through he really is staring into the depths of his own soul, and he does not like what he sees. And so he's going through that, and Bryan Callen just goes, how do you not know that's going to happen? And so the one clip, it's called Curb Your D'Elia. Check that one out if you just want like a 30-second thing, and I'll post the full podcast and start at like an hour and 15 in. And it's, like I said, I watched it 30 times this past week, just going, oh. And just fascinating body language type stuff. So that has been happening all week. I was glued. And then on Thursday, like mid-afternoon, I get a text from someone and they go, dude, are you following the Bryan Yang stuff? And I wasn't. I'm not on Twitter. And all of this comedy drama stuff happens on Twitter first, and then I guess makes it to YouTube like a week later. But so Bryan Yang is like in 2013, 14, and 15, I saw Bryan Yang. We've never hung out outside of comedy, but we were on a bunch of shows together those years. I always was happy to see him. Good hang, funny comic. But I haven't seen him or anything that he's done in, like I said, 5 years. And so I get that text like, are you seeing all this? It's happening. And so I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And this also, Bryan Yang this week got canceled. And it has to be one of the funniest cancels I've ever seen in my life. And I'm talking canceled. And so where this one starts is another comedian was also getting canceled this past week. Here we are in comedy, the United States in 2020. So a very talented comedian named Megan Amram, has over 1 million Twitter followers. She's a producer currently of a show in LA called The Good Place. And so this last week, she had tweets someone went and found tweets from 9 years ago. And so she had accusations this past week of bubbling up that she is a racist. And this was the tweet that bubbled up and started making the rounds. It's, quote, "It's not politically correct to say retarded anymore. You have to call them Asian Americans." And so that's the tweet that she tweeted August 30th, 2011, that now is proving her racism. And so these people just go and find jokes from like 10 years ago. Jokes. It's not a manifesto that she had buried in her backyard, or she wasn't distributing pamphlets late at night under a street lamp like, "Did you hear? All Asians are retards. Science says it's true. Keep it under your hat." That would make her racist. This is just a joke. It's a joke. You remember jokes, people? It's just a joke, you know? It was also 10 years ago, but, you know, the whole Twitter mob came from her. If you go to her Twitter right now, there's like a 5-paragraph apology that she has pinned to the top, like, "Listen, guys, I had, you know, the whole apology thing." And then if you click on the apology, there's hundreds of comments on the apology just saying, "This apology does not work for us at all. This is the worst apology, and it proves you're even fucking more racist." And so she, a talented joke writer that's not careful and takes risk and actually, you know, has really funny jokes that she's written over the years, is now apologizing that her apology's not good enough. And one of the comedians that really tried to jump on the pile and bring her down for jokes, usually comedians are the ones that if someone goes down for a problematic joke, they're like, even if the comedians don't like the comedian, a lot of times it's like, "You're good, don't worry about it. The people on Twitter, just let them be mad for a while. It'll go away. We got your back." I have a theory. I have no scientific evidence for this, but I have a theory that the people that dig up old tweets and get excited to take people down and to call them racist for a joke, I have a feeling that they're the type of people that they lay in bed all day drinking wine by themselves. And so if the Twitter mob comes for you, a lot of times it's like, "Yeah, right, I'll just wait for it to go away. I don't care." But Bryan goes after a comedian. And so he, I guess, retweets her tweet, and he says this. So it's her tweet. It's not politically correct to say retarded anymore. That one. And so he retweets it with his commentary. He goes, "This sucks. Personally, Megan Amram has been really kind to me, but this shit is reprehensible. Even coming from someone that you've admired and has given you advice. Not sure what the joke is here either. Shit is way worse when it comes from someone you considered a friend." And then it continues. Hold on. It's, "Megan was super sweet and kind to me and my family when I was in the hospital with COVID. I believe there is a thing where good white people can still be racist. Has she burned a cross? No, but her biases and jokes have probably negatively impacted people of color around her. That is painful. Okay, so that's what he said. A comedian, as Megan Amran is, going through it, a comedian jumps on, which you don't really see that often. But here's the thing. If you demand perfection from another comedian, if you join the call-out mob, you better be perfect. I would never do anything like that. Unlike comedy critics, I'm not perfect. I don't want to be careful. I want to take risks. What a disaster of a place to be as a comedian, where Bryan Yang is just, listen, people, someone that was extremely nice to me while I had COVID and while I was in the hospital has done nothing but good things for me. That being said, should lose her career for a joke 9 years ago? It's like, what are you talking about? Okay, so he puts himself on the block. And the tweets from years ago, everyone starts going through his stuff. The tweets from years ago start pouring in. And part of the just absurdity of this whole story that I think a lot of comedians don't understand, and why I've been glued, is if you're going to go full on Twitter mob, try to bring down another comedian, you better be squeaky clean. And oh boy, did Bryan's old tweets come up. And what's funny is a lot of them are funny. A lot of his old problematic tweets that now the Twitter mob that he was joining and spearheading, they all flipped on him. And he went down in flames this week. Maybe as hard as I've ever seen somebody. Like Chris D'Elia's going down for possible pedophilia. And Megan Amran's going down for possible racism. And Bryan went down for hypocrisy. Just total hypocritical flames. And at this point in the game, he's the most canceled. All of his Twitter he had to delete his Twitter. Everything on YouTube is gone. And all right, so here's a couple of his tweets that came back up. This was one of my favorites. I think this one. Sitting Indian style is considered a derogatory term, but how else am I supposed to describe when I'm passed out drunk on a casino floor? And here's another one. Why is a black girl's name trending? Hashtag Rosh Hashanah. Here's another one. Germany beating Brazil 7-1 wasn't bad, but when they beat the Jews 6-0 was way worse. So again, it's jokes. And the funny thing about it is, okay, the Twitter mob goes through all of this, and it's just everything. It's circulating now. People are posting like clusters of what they consider his problematic jokes. And so he had to do what he wanted everyone else to do. Like, I went to his YouTube channel, and a couple weeks ago, he had started a late night type talk show, which I was pumped about. I was like, there you go. It was just in his room with the headphones, just like I do it. And I was like, all right, there you go. So the first episode was a week before he got canceled, and he's on there, and he's confident, and he's doing his new YouTube show. And he had a guest on, which was a writer from A Little Late with Lily Singh, which that's a whole nother story. That will probably go down as the worst show in history. And if you want to watch an interesting video on that show, I don't know her name, but a talented YouTuber. Her channel's called Swell Entertainment, but she lives in California. And she went and was an audience member on the Little Late with Lily Singh show. And it is just a bizarre world. That whole show is just crazy. I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. But check her Swell Entertainment, where she was an audience on the... But anyway, so does this Tonight Show as his guest on. It's his new thing on YouTube. And then a week later, just 1 week later, this whole thing is happening. So he made one episode of just like, it's my new show. And then the next episode, this has all been, he deleted all his videos on YouTube. But then the next episode is just him going, hey, everybody, I got to start this episode with an apology for my racist, sexist, homophobic, anti-Semitic. It just kept going. I was like, no, Andrew, come on. No one thinks you're any of those things. I really don't. Just the lonely wine drinkers in bed on Twitter might think you're those things, but no one thinks you're those things. Everyone just thinks you're a comedian that in 2013 and 14 was making jokes and then for some reason just got caught up in the woked out cancel culture, demanding apologies, demanding perfection from everybody. And so he was like, hey, everyone, I'm so sorry for my tweets and stuff, saying stuff like that. And then if you look at the comments on Twitter and YouTube, a lot of people are like, damn, 2013 Yang is pretty damn funny. This is some good stuff. And so Bryan canceled himself, just hypocritically canceled himself. So it's a lesson and it's fascinating, and I'd love to talk to him about it. I talk to him either privately or on the show. If you ever see this, Bryan, I'm just interested. And I know his wife, and I just can't imagine him just sitting in the apartment across town just going, babe, I blew it. I should have never have demanded perfection from everyone else with knowing that I'm not either. And it's wild. But like I said, out of the three so far, he's the most canceled. If the accusations come out true, I think he'll pass him as the most canceled and the most deserving. But right now, he's the only one with his whole YouTube is gone, his whole Twitter is gone. He's still on Instagram, and I saw that he posted a message being like, I'm an idiot, I'm a hypocrite, and so he's definitely going through it. I can't imagine. But anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting. That's what I've been fascinated by the past week. Hope you're having a good weekend and all is well. I'll talk to you next time. Why? Stamina. Why? Shamita. Oops.